What happens when 6% of the planet's coral reefs harbor 75% of all known marine species? There's a place where more creatures live in a single square kilometer than in the entire Amazon rainforest, where an octopus the size of your hand carries enough venom to kill 26 people, and where fish change sex like changing clothes. What protects this sanctuary while the rest of the oceans disappear? Get ready. In the next few minutes, you'll discover creatures that hypnotize prey before killing them, corals that grow faster than your hair, and navigators that cross entire oceans using only Earth's magnetism. All of this is real, happening right now, and science still can't fully explain how it works. Between the turquoise waters of Indonesia, Philippines, Papua New Guinea, Solomon Islands, Malaysia, and East Timor, the Coral Triangle emerges as the epicenter of marine life. Here, where the Pacific Ocean meets the Indian, the perfect temperature of 27 to 29 degrees Celsius detonates the planet's greatest explosion of biodiversity. To help you understand the scale, if Australia's Great Barrier Reef is impressive, the Coral Triangle has 5 times more species in the same space. Equatorial currents carry nutrients from abyssal depths, while still active underwater volcanoes shape the relief of a kingdom where every drop of water pulses with more life than any other ecosystem on Earth. The first morning lights reveal builders that have been working for 500 million years, older than trees, dinosaurs, or any terrestrial plant. The cauliflower coral, Pachylopora spp, is a superorganism composed of millions of microscopic animals, secreting calcium carbonate day and night without ever stopping. Here's the shock. A colony the size of your car contains more individuals working together than the population of an entire megacity. And they don't sleep, don't stop, don't take holidays. They just build, atom by atom, creating underwater mountains that change the planet's geography. The rough surface harbors symbiotic algae in a partnership that began when dinosaurs were still tiny lizards crawling in primitive swamps. But when the sun sets, the beautiful garden reveals a murderous face. Polyps extend tentacles armed with microscopic harpoons that fire at 160 kilometers per hour. For comparison, that's faster than a .22 caliber revolver bullet leaving the barrel, the fastest acceleration in the animal kingdom. In one night, a colony captures millions of organisms, pumping energy that sustains entire ecosystems dependent on this pulsating living foundation. But a few meters away, another coral chose the opposite strategy. Extreme speed instead of slow, gradual robustness over centuries. The staghorn coral, Acropora curvicornis, grows 15 centimeters per year. Your hair grows slower than that, and we're talking about living rock. While other corals take 300 years to form table-sized structures, this one builds underwater forests in just 30 years. Fragments broken by storms fall, attach themselves, and begin clone colonies. Immortality through natural cloning that scientists try to copy, spending billions on genetic research. But here's the tragedy. This speedster pays a brutal price in accelerated global warming that heats seas beyond tolerable limits. Just 2 degrees Celsius above normal, less than the difference between your house with air conditioning and without, triggers bleaching where coral expels algae and dies. During severe events, reefs of square kilometers transform into white cemeteries in weeks, destruction that takes decades to recover, if it recovers at all. But scientists found resistant supercorals, specimens that survive the impossible heat, storing in their genes the only hope of resurrection for reefs on a planet that won't stop heating. Where gravity should destroy everything, flexibility wins through engineering that seems impossible but works perfectly for millions of years. The sea fan coral, Gorgonia spp. Attaches to vertical walls, opening branches perpendicular to the current. Imagine a giant volleyball net filtering the ocean 24 hours a day. Colors explode in nuclear yellows and reds that shouldn't exist underwater, so intense they seem to glow on their own without external light. The secret? Flexible protein skeleton instead of brittle limestone. Same protein that inspired the first car springs in the 19th century, but this one has existed for 300 million years. When underwater hurricanes accelerate currents, rigid corals shatter like glass. The fans simply bend, dance, and return to normal when the storm passes. Each branch filters thousands of liters daily, capturing nutrients so diluted that scientific equipment worth millions of dollars can barely detect them. It's the reef's inverted lung, transforming invisible into visible biological processor that works without electricity, without maintenance, without replacement parts. Just continuous regeneration that defies everything human engineers know about durability and sustainable operational efficiency. And above this underwater garden, elegant shadows glide, defying every law of physics you learned in school about movement. Eagle rays, Atobatus ocellatus, measure up to 3 meters wingspan, wider than your car, but fly underwater with impossible delicacy. Here's the absurd. They navigate millimeters above fragile corals at high speed without ever touching anything. Precision that fighter jets can't achieve. White spots over dark blue aren't decoration, but perfect camouflage when seen from above. Pattern that makes them invisible against the ocean floor. But beneath the flattened body hides military technology. Ampulli of Lorenzini detect electric fields produced by mussels of prey buried under 30 centimeters of sand. Hidden mollusks, thinking they're safe, discover too late that the ray sees electricity. There's no hiding place against a predator that sees the invisible. They dive, fire hydraulic jets that excavate sand with surgical precision, and crush shells with pressure of 200 kilograms per square centimeter, more force than a pit bull's bite. And while gliding in synchronized groups, tails drag venomous serrated spines they rarely use. When you're so elegant and enormous, beauty is already sufficient defense. In the reef's caverns, giants that live longer than your grandparents wait with the patience of breathing stone. Groupers, Epinephalus spp. Weigh 300 kilograms, 3 MMA fighters together, and live 60 years watching generations of divers pass. But the real shock comes now. These fish change sex as they age, transforming from young males into giant females as they mature. Their mouths open so fast, they create explosive vacuum-sucking entire fish in 1 millisecond. 1,000 frame per second cameras capture only blur. Colors flow across skin like liquid ink, communicating emotion. Red means anger, brown is calm, stripes are sexual excitement. Chromatic vocabulary we're only beginning to translate. And the intelligence scares. Groupers recruit moray eels for coordinated hunts, where they signal with head movements pointing to hiding spots while the moray expels prey. This isn't blind instinct, but planning, interspecies communication, ability to understand that another animal has different abilities. Theory of mind that to this day few animals demonstrate. When huge eyes follow you, recognizing you from previous dives, it's impossible to deny there's someone thinking in there. Where reef meets infinite blue void, 400-million-year-old perfection patrols, invisible frontiers without ever completely resting. Reef sharks, Karcher Highness SPP. Maintain 3 kilometers per hour for hours, slow human walking speed, but sustained all day without stopping. But this glacial pace hides explosion. When they detect vulnerability, they accelerate to 40 kilometers per hour in 2 seconds, 0 to 40 faster than a latest generation electric sports car. Skin covered in dermal denticles, millions of microscopic teeth, reduces friction to levels that nuclear submarine engineers try to copy without success for decades. Here's the inconvenient truth. Sharks aren't killers, but gardeners removing sick and weak, keeping fish healthy through active natural selection. Gestation lasts 12 months, producing only 4 pups. Each death is a population disaster that takes decades recovering because reproduction is so slow. Electromagnetic sensors in snouts detect accelerated heartbeats meters away. Fear literally guides them to vulnerable prey. The more you panic, the more you become a target. And on reefs, where humans fished all the sharks, herbivorous fish explode, eat all the algae, corals suffocate and die. Entire ecosystem collapses in 5 years just from the absence of these essential predators. From black depths, gentle titans rise, gliding with wings that don't beat air but water in hypnotic, super slow motion. Reef manta rays, Mobula alfredi, exceed 5 meters wingspan and 1,400 kilograms, larger and heavier than your entire car. But they feed only on microscopic, invisible creatures. Zooplankton. You need a microscope to clearly see anatomical details. Giant mouths filter thousands of liters, capturing plankton with 99% efficiency. Your coffee filter wastes more than that. During plankton explosions, 50 mantas spin in an aquatic tornado that looks like rehearsed choreography, but is just pure chemistry of cooperation. Each manta has a unique fingerprint of spots that scientists catalog. Some return to the same cleaning stations for 30 consecutive years. Relationships longer than many human marriages. Intelligence manifests in play, investigation of divers, recognition of specific humans through years. Brains proportionally larger than any other fish suggest frightening cognitive capacity. When mating explodes, 20 males chase one female for entire days without stopping. Resistance marathon where only the strongest mates while the weak give up exhausted. Females gestate a single pup for an entire year. Investment that makes each birth precious and each death from fishing an irreversible population tragedy. Among shallow corals, vibrant yellow beauty screams warning that only fools ignore. Don't touch or you'll be painfully sorry. The fox-face rabbitfish, Siganus vulpinus, looks harmless, but each spine contains venom causing pain worse than natural childbirth according to victims. Agony lasting days followed by necrosis. But paradox arises. They're peaceful herbivores grazing algae, like Zen gardeners controlling growth that would suffocate corals if it exploded uncontrolled. They move in synchronized groups, precisely nibbling specific species while ignoring others. Selectivity that maintains essential botanical diversity. At night, bright colors disappear in minutes, replaced by nocturnal camouflage that fuses them with rocks and shadows. Impressive chromatic metamorphosis. When threatened, they don't flee, but raise spines, inflate body, present themselves laterally appearing larger. Calculated bluff because venom costs energy to produce metabolically. The toxin isn't for hunting, but pure defense against predators that learn fast. One painful attack creates permanent memory associating yellow with suffering. On healthy reefs, fox-face rabbitfish represent 60% of herbivorous biomass. Remove them and algae triple in 6 months, suffocating young corals before they grow. Without gardeners, reef becomes green prairie that doesn't sustain the same life. On illuminated slopes, liquid gold moves like metallic cloud that seems to have its own mind coordinating hundreds of individuals. Blue-striped snappers, Lujanus casmira, form schools so synchronized that each turn happens to the millisecond. Precision that defies explanation even with modern technology. Scales reflect light in stroboscopic flashes, communicating alarms about predators humans don't see yet. Aquatic Morse code in visual frequencies only the reef understands. They return to the same crevices every night for years. Address fidelity that human GPS would envy without satellites or maps. But bitter lesson. Introduced to Hawaii in 1958, they became devastating plague, decimating native species because they had no natural predators. Populations exploded uncontrollably, proving that even beautiful species become destructive monsters outside the evolutionary context where they were refined. In the coral triangle, groupers and sharks keep numbers controlled through predation that evolved for millions of years. Delicate balance that arrogant humans broke in Hawaii in one afternoon of poorly thought-out introduction. Its brutal reminder: don't mess with ecosystem you don't fully understand, or you'll create disaster that takes generations to fix. When the last ray of sun disappears, nocturnal army emerges like marine vampires beginning shift that humans rarely witness. Soldierfish, Myropristis spp, have enormous eyes, each larger than a big coin, capturing individual photons, allowing vision in darkness where you see only black. As night swallows the reef, they abandon caverns in military formations, dispersing to hunt zooplankton that rises from abysses every night. This vertical migration is the largest biomass movement on the planet. Tons of life rising and falling daily on a scale humans barely comprehend. They communicate through sounds, clicks, grunts, vibrating swim bladder like biological drum that crosses kilometers of ocean. During spawning, choruses intensify into underwater symphony so powerful that hydrophones detect them kilometers away. Aquatic Beethoven coordinating release of eggs and sperm with perfect timing. Red colors? Genius camouflage because water absorbs red first, making them invisible at depth. Phantom nocturnal predator operating in spectrum where diurnal prey go blind. They return to the same caverns for centuries through chemical memory passed between generations. Oral tradition without words that precedes human writing by millions of years. Sharing shadows, close relatives execute subtle variation of the same nocturnal strategy, allowing coexistence without destructive war. Squirrelfish, Sargocentron spp, differ by pronounced dorsal spines and red stripes with white, pattern that distinguishes them from soldiers. Protrusible jaws extend like telescope, aspirating invertebrates before reaction. Suction creates cavitation. Vacuum bubbles imploding with sufficient force, stunning prey. Pectoral fins beat furiously, maintaining position against currents, while eyes track targets invisible to you. Sensory motor coordination that rivals reflexes of terrestrial predators considered superior. Social hierarchies govern caverns through ritualized violence. Dominants occupy best positions while subordinates live on exposed edges where moray eels get them first. But hierarchy isn't fixed. Daily challenges allow small ones to ascend when large ones weaken. Brutal meritocracy where strength literally determines quality of life. During full moon, females rise in columns, releasing millions of eggs that drift with currents. Strategy sacrificing 99.9% of offspring, so some survive far from concentrated predators. Biological lottery played monthly for geological eras proves that quantity compensates catastrophic mortality when absolute numbers are sufficiently large to guarantee survivors. On slopes swept by currents, medium-sized predators execute ambushes that combine infinite patience with explosive violence in seconds. Red snappers, Luchinus bohar, reach 1 meter and 40 kilograms of muscle, weight of 10-year-old child compressed into torpedo. They accelerate from 0 to 30 kilometers per hour in 2 meters, G-force that would kill you from brain trauma, but their anatomy withstands. Jaws crush lobsters like you crack peanuts. Masticatory force that would make pit bulls look weak in direct comparison. Red intensifies during excitement like biological traffic light, signaling, "Get out of the way, or you'll get seriously hurt." They hunt at twilight, window when diurnal ones return home and nocturnal ones haven't completely emerged yet. Moment of maximum vulnerability exploited with perfect timing. here's sinister twist. Large snappers accumulate ciguatera, toxin from dinoflagellates concentrating at each food level until top predator becomes chemical bomb. Humans who eat suffer paralysis, hallucinations, temperature inversion where hot feels cold for months, poisoning that can kill days later. Cruel irony. Supreme hunter becomes untouchable not by strength, but by being too poisonous to safely eat. On the reef, they remove excess herbivores, preventing overgrazing that would transform coral into green desert dominated by opportunistic algae. Where sunlight still explodes in complete colors, electric blue gardeners execute maintenance that determines whether reef lives or slowly dies. Powder blue surgeonfish, Acanthurus leucosternon, glow like neon. Pigment so intense it seems impossible underwater without electricity. Microscope reveals photonic nanocrystals reflecting light. Same physics smartphone screens use, but this has existed for millions of years before humans invented technology. Yellow tail signals position during feeding, while white spines warn, equipped with retractable blades sharp as surgical scalpel hidden at tail base. Their job: scrape algae competing with corals for space. Without constant gardening, algae cover everything in weeks, killing polyps by asphyxiation. They defend feeding territories like private property. Confrontations involve slow circling, displaying sides, raised spines in threatening aquatic peacock display. If intimidation fails, blades cut flesh deeply, leaving permanent scars that serve as painful reminders of established hierarchy. Winners get best gardens, active females, social positions affecting genetic success for generations. Sophisticated society where beauty hides calculated functional violence. Without these surgeons, experiments show corals die suffocated by algae in months. They're absolutely essential for reef survival. In the same waters, cousins execute parallel functions with different tools, allowing both to coexist without killing each other for resources. Blue tangs, Acanthurus coeruleus, present deep indigo blue that absorbs light instead of reflecting like mirror, almost supernatural tonality. They prefer fleshy algae instead of filamentous. Niche separated by millimeters, but refined during millions of years of competitive coevolution. Juveniles are bright yellow, looking like totally different species. Metamorphosis that confused scientists for decades until continuous observations revealed transformation. Full moon triggers irresistible reproductive behavior. Thousands converge at specific locations in spectacular aggregation visible from afar. Males defend temporary volumes of water, executing vertical dances. Spiraling swimming displaying colors under all possible angles for selective females choosing vigor. Eggs disperse with currents. Larvae drift for weeks before settling hundreds of kilometers away. Strategy connecting distant populations through invisible ocean currents. Its genetic web uniting entire coral triangle in synchronized breathing metapopulation. Remove one reef and genetics of 1,000 others suffer through connectivity humans constantly underestimate. Among coral branches, sapphire liquid clouds hover like blue smoke that moves with its own will, coordinating hundreds. Blue-green Chromis, Chromis viridis, maintain spacing so perfect they look like pixels on ultra-high-definition screen, each fish at exact coordinate in invisible three-dimensional grid. When one moves, waves propagate through school like dominoes in super slow motion, synchronization, revealing communication at neurological speeds impossible for human consciousness to process. They feed on microscopic zooplankton you need microscope to see. Efficiency so high, they extract sufficient energy from practically invisible prey. But its slightest sign, wrong shadow, strange vibration, schools evaporate between corals instantly as if they never existed. Biological teleport through reflexes faster than you can blink. Symbiotic relationship works. Fish gain impenetrable refuge, while feces fertilize coral polyps with nitrogen essential for accelerated coral growth. During reproduction, 3-centimeter males attack fish 100 times larger, defending nests. Disproportionate courage that defies all logic about size and survival. They guard eggs for 3 days without eating. 20% die of hunger during parental guard. Sacrifice that questions frontier between instinct and consciousness in creatures smaller than your finger. On outer edge currents, aerodynamic hunters patrol with vigilance that literally never completely sleeps during entire lifetimes. Blackfin barracudas, Sphaerina keeni, exceed 1.5 meters of silver torpedo with jaws full of interlocking teeth like flesh zipper. They accelerate 0 to 50 kilometers per hour in 2 seconds, faster than luxury sports car from zero. Eyes fix targets with disturbing intensity, tracking for minutes before attacking. Ballistic calculation processed in brain without calculator or computer. Young form silver tornadoes of hundreds spinning in perfect synchrony, confusing larger predators through hypnotic collective movement. Adults become solitary territorial defending reef points where currents concentrate migratory schools. Ambushes at strategic points chosen by experience. Danger to humans is myth. Attacks occur only in murky water when shiny objects, watch, bracelet, are confused with small fish triggering instinct. But investigative intelligence combined with teeth that look like knives deserves absolute respect. Barracuda following you doesn't plan dinner but investigates anomaly with curiosity that seems threatening, but rarely turns into real aggression against experienced humans. In marine prairies, ancestral navigators complete journeys that human GPS can't without satellites or modern electronic technology. Green sea turtles, Colonia midas, weigh 200 kilograms and live 80 years crossing oceans to nest exactly where they were born decades before. How? Earth's magnetic field works as natural GPS. They detect subtle variations in inclination and intensity, creating 3-dimensional map of planet engraved in neurons since hatchling. They graze marine grasses, shaping ecosystems. Bites stimulate new growth, maintaining young, nutritious prairies through gardening that benefits hundreds of dependent species. Jaws without teeth but serrated edges cut vegetation with industrial scissor efficiency, processing kilos daily. Pregnant females emerge on beaches excavating 80-centimeter deep nests, exhausting hours-long process in environment where they no longer evolutionarily belong. But climate shock. Sand temperature determines hatchling sex. Hot produces females, cold generates males. Global warming is superheating nests. Some populations already have 99% female hatchlings. In 2 generations, lack of males may completely collapse reproduction. Extinction in slow motion happening now, while you watch without being able to do anything immediately. From abysses you can't imagine, living fossils rise, repeating 300 million year journey, older than dinosaurs by 100 million. Chambered nautiluses, Nautilus pompilius, survived 5 mass extinctions that killed 90% of everything that existed in catastrophic times. Shells divide into 30 chambers, with gases controlling buoyancy through chemical osmosis. Biological submarine that inspired first human submarines in the 19th century. During day, they live at 300 meters depth where pressure crushes bad submarines and darkness is total. At night, they rise to shallow waters. 90 tentacles without suckers surround beak that crushes shells like you crack peanuts. Impressive masticatory force for creature that looks delicate and fragile. Eyes without lenses function like primitive pinhole camera, forming blurred images but sufficient to hunt efficiently in darkness. Reproduction? 12 eggs per year, taking 12 months to hatch each. Extreme investment making each nautilus irreplaceable evolutionary preciousness. Populations collapse due to capture for decorative shells. Souvenir shop trinkets killing species that survived the meteor that extinguished dinosaurs. Too brutal irony. Survived apocalypses but may not survive tourists buying cheap souvenirs. In protected gardens, transformation masters execute changes that make Hollywood special effects look amateurish and unconvincing. Giant cuttlefish, Sepia latimanus, reach 50 centimeters of alien intelligence equipped with skin-changing colors in 300 milliseconds, faster than blinking. Millions of chromatophores expand under direct neural command without hormones. Living kaleidoscope, replicating coral, rock, sand, even light breaking on surface. Transformations so complete they're invisible centimeters from you, looking directly at them without seeing anything. They hunt through hypnosis. Pulsating color waves cross body-inducing trance in prey. Paralysis for seconds while tentacles fire at 40 kilometers per hour, grabbing victims. Intelligence rivals dogs. They learn by observing, solve puzzles that confuse small children, demonstrate future planning and long-term memory. During mating, males execute 16 distinct chromatic patterns, each with specific meaning. Complex visual language scientists are only slowly beginning to decode. But tragedy, they die after single reproduction. Genetic programming guaranteeing death after spawning, eliminating possibility of underwater civilizations. If they lived decades instead of 2 years, what would they build with this frightening intelligence? In narrow crevices, miniaturized versions prove size doesn't determine capability or behavioral sophistication in intelligent cephalopods. Dwarf cuttlefish, Sepia bandensis, rarely exceed 8 centimeters, fit in your palm, but master camouflage with mastery identical to giants. Instant transformations defy eyes, even observing from centimeters in crystal water under direct sunlight, perfect for visibility. They live complete lives in territories smaller than table, condensed universes in few square meters of structurally complex reef. Observation requires Zen patience. They stay motionless for minutes, fused with substrate, revealing themselves only by occasional eye movement. Dominant males build harems of 5 females, defending through displays where they inflate to maximum anatomically possible visibly. But brilliant alternative strategy, small males perfectly mimic female patterns, infiltrating harems and fertilizing eggs, while dominants remain completely ignorant. Genetic war through aquatic drag, proof that intelligence doesn't require enormous brain mass, but sufficiently complex neural circuits for elaborate deception. Females deposit eggs individually, meticulously camouflaging each one. Obsessive maternity guaranteeing maximum protection against predators, scouring every millimeter looking for easy meal. Among shallow rocks, hypnotic beauty hides chemical death in package that fits in small coffee cup. Blue-ringed octopuses, Hapaloclena spp, measure 15 centimeters, but carry tetrodotoxin, killing 26 adult humans in 30 minutes. Venom 1,000 times more potent than cyanide, without antidote. No treatment exists beyond artificial ventilation until metabolizing. You literally wait and hope. Normally camouflaged in brown, when threatened blue rings light up like neon LEDs, warning only suicides consciously ignore. This creature, weighing less than cell phone, is one of planet's most lethal animals, proving size means nothing. During hunt, they move like professional assassin investigating crevices, before attacking with speed impossible to follow with naked eye. Crabs and shrimp paralyze instantly. Toxin blocks sodium channels, causing paralysis, beginning in extremities and advancing to respiratory muscles fatally. But potency serves as defense. They're shy, preferring escape whenever possible, without gratuitous, unnecessary aggressiveness. When they attack humans, always accident, there's no initial pain, just tingling followed by paralysis, while victim remains conscious, slowly suffocating. Gentle death in appearance, but terrifying in experience. Brain becomes prison inside paralyzed body that no longer obeys voluntary commands. In open waters above, when darkness swallows light, nocturnal hunters initiate impressive coordinated predation ballets. Reef squid, Doryteuthis spp. Form schools moving like collective mind. Each individual mirrors neighbors with millimetric precision, suggesting telepathy, but operating through sensory processing. Jet propulsion allows acceleration in any direction, including reverse. No fish can do this physically. Tentacles fire like whips at speeds, creating microscopic shock waves. Suckers with sharp chitin rings prevent escape of captured prey. Bioluminescence pulses in biological code. Rapid flashes are alarm, slow waves communicate available reproduction, stroboscopic signal territorial aggressiveness. During aggregations, 50 males compete for one female through aquatic wrestling, rarely causing serious injuries. Theatrical violence determining hierarchy without waste. Females deposit hundreds of capsules on dead coral. Underwater gardens hatch synchronously after weeks defined by temperature. Hatchlings emerge as miniature adults without prolonged larvae. They hunt immediately but must master skills others take months, gradually learning. Accelerated maturation forced by short life. Majority live only 1 year, compressing existence into 12 months of feeding, growth, reproduction, and inevitable death. But among all these wonders, a silent threat approaches faster than any natural predator ever could: ocean warming. The coral triangle's average temperature has risen 1 degree Celsius in the last 50 years. Seems little until you understand corals live at thermal limit for millions of years. 1 more degree and mass bleaching begins transforming vibrant gardens into white cemeteries in weeks that take decades recovering. Green sea turtles produce only females in superheated nests, eliminating males from population in 2 generations. Fish migrate to deeper, colder waters, changing distribution that existed for millennia and destabilizing food chains refined during eras. Ocean acidification, carbon dioxide dissolving in water, corrodes coral skeletons and nautilus shells faster than they can build. It's like trying to fill bathtub with drain open increasingly wider. Each passing year, scientists record temperature records, bleaching events, species mortality that never completely recover. This isn't alarmism, but pure mathematics. If temperature rises 2 degrees above pre-industrial average, and we're dangerously close, 90% of global coral reefs will die by 2050. And when corals die, the cascade effect is apocalyptic on scale human brain barely processes. 500 million people depend on reefs for food, and coastal protection lose everything. $6 billion annual fishing industry collapses, taking entire economies along in economic fall. "75% of marine species living on reefs during some life phase disappear. Mass extinction comparable to meteor that killed dinosaurs. Beaches that reefs protect from waves and storms become exposed. Erosion accelerates, coastal communities flood, climate refugees migrate by millions. But here's inconvenient truth. There's still time if we act now immediately. Creating protected marine reserves where fishing is prohibited allows populations to recover. Studies show fish biomass multiplies by 10 in just 20 years of rigorous protection. Reducing carbon emissions slows warming, giving time for corals to adapt through natural selection of resistant supercorals. Restoration programs transplanting resilient fragments already show results. Dead reefs revive when conditions improve and human effort compensates previous destruction. The question isn't whether we can save the coral triangle, but whether we will. Technology and knowledge exist. Only political will and collective action on coordinated global scale are missing. The coral triangle breathes like the planet's heart, living testimony of billions of years of evolution, pulsing with life since before humans existed. Each species here, from microscopic polyp to giant ray, represents triumph of adaptation. Venom calibrated to the milligram, navigation by magnetism, chromatic transformation in milliseconds, intelligence in minuscule brains. Nature wove this sanctuary as lesson about interdependence, where removing one piece collapses the whole, where beauty hides essential function, where apparent fragility masks resilience of eras. But this underwater fortress, built over millions of years, now faces unprecedented threat created in just 2 centuries. Warming that bleaches corals sculpted by time. Fishing that removes pillars of perfectly balanced food chains. Pollution that poisons crystalline waters. If this sanctuary falls, 75% of marine biodiversity disappears, taking with it billions of years of evolutionary refinement that can never be recreated. But science shows it's not too late. Leave your like now. If you believe these worlds deserve protection, subscribe because we'll show real solutions that work, and comment which creature impressed you most. Together, we can be worthy guardians of the ocean's greatest biological treasure, while we still have a narrow window of opportunity to act before it becomes irreversible, and these wonders disappear forever, taking with them evolutionary lessons of incalculable value.